Good morning. I am here today with Adam Winfield, who's the president and founder of Simple Recycling, and I'm very excited to talk to you about this new opportunity for recycling in our city. I'm Bonnie Hollander, and my job here at the City of Farmington Hills is the STEM Education Coordinator. I work at the Nature Center, and we help bring STEM education to our residents. So first, could you just tell me a little bit about your company and how you got started?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to thank you and your team for bringing us in today. We're really excited about this partnership with the City of Farmington Hills and the residents. Simple Recycling is a curbside recycling program for clothing, shoes, and other reusable home goods. Things like kids' toys, books, kitchenware, basically any sort of reusable home type item that you may no longer have a use for, but can be reused or repurposed for another use. Our program is very simple. It's all based on convenience. So our program is designed to be an extension of the existing recycling collection program that's already in place in Farmington Hills. Every resident has received designated green bags for clothing, shoe, and home goods recycling. Residents simply fill those bags with the category of materials that are listed on the bag and place them out on their curb on their regular recycling collection day. So the idea is that it's as convenient as possible and as simple as possible for residents to understand and utilize the program to keep this material out of the waste stream.
Okay, no, that sounds great. And keeping it simple definitely helps increase participation. But I think the name of your company is interesting. It's Simple Recycling, but we know that recycling is anything but simple. Mm-hmm. And it involves so many things from economics, transportation, technology. So when we make something simple, then we have a viable way of participation. Whenever I talk about recycling at the Nature Center, I always like to start with what are the materials that we're recycling and really recognizing those materials. So I'll say, for example, if it's a piece of paper, that it comes from a tree. So I took a shirt, this is actually from my son's closet, and I looked at what it was made out of, and it said it was 50% cotton and 50% polyester. So then we thought, well, where does that really come from? And I brought in some examples because I think it helps to go back to the source. 50% cotton, we know grows from fields. This maybe grew in Bangladesh and from a plant and was picked, somehow turned into the shirt. And then the other 50% polyester came from oil, right? Fossil fuels that came from the earth from billions of years. And somehow, I'm not a chemist, but through polymerization, and they turn this into the fibers. So now we have this shirt. And we know sometimes, like this shirt, for example, was probably worn one time. I don't even know where my son got it. It says something about on Wednesdays we wear pink. Mm-hmm. He wore it one time, then he put it in my family's donation pile. One time it got worn. What would happen? Can you give me a little bit of information about what would be like the life cycle? What would happen to this shirt?
Yep. So the reality of it is that this category of material is 100% reusable or recyclable. And two different specifications or two different categories. One is reuse. Obviously that shirt is still reusable in its original intended purpose, which is a little bit different from the category of our program versus traditional recycling, where it has to be broken down into base materials for it to be recycled. With this category of material, we seek highest and best use. So that means if it is a shirt in that condition, we seek to find it a new life as a shirt. If that shirt was stained or had small holes in it, it could still be used as a shirt, but wouldn't necessarily be a top quality type shirt that would be sold in a domestic resale environment here in the US, but there might be a market for it in other places around the world that have a little more tolerance for small imperfections in the garment. The next step is going to be, if that shirt can't be reused as a shirt, it could be reused as a wiping rag. So for C-grade materials that are not of quality and condition that there's a market for reuse. They would get repurposed into wiping rags. And then a shirt that's completely tattered or a single sock with a hole in it that doesn't have its match, that can get recycled for base materials to be turned into things like insulation, carpet padding, things like that. But our goal is to make it as simple and convenient for residents to find a new life for that material, and for us on the back end to find the highest and best use for that garment.
Okay. Well, as a resident myself of Farmington Hills, I was confused at first when I heard about this program, and I was a little unsure about how did it compare to sending something to the Salvation Army. And can you talk a little bit about that?
So residents who traditionally donate their clothing and other items to organizations like Purple Heart or other nonprofits, we encourage residents to continue to do that. The foundation of the program is based on the EPA data that only 15% of clothing gets donated or recycled to all charitable organizations combined. That's Goodwill, Salvation Army, Purple Heart, all those clothing donation bins. 85% of clothing ends up in the landfill through the residential waste stream. So while residents like yourself support Salvation Army, we encourage that, but there's a gap in the market in terms of convenience for residents who might not have the time or the interest to go and bring their clothing somewhere else. With this program, it's as simple as putting it in the green bag and setting it out on your curb on your regular recycling collection day.
Do you think it's going to have a negative impact on those organizations like Salvation Army and Purple Heart?
So I don't actually. For the past 3 years, we've operated this program, and we have followed closely the feedback from the local organizations that receive donations. What we've actually found is that a rising tide raises all ships, right? So here we are today talking about what can you do with your old clothing. We're talking about organizations like Purple Heart and Salvation Army that are a viable option for residents. That conversation wasn't being had before. But again, our focus is on the vast majority, which is 85% that goes into the trash, and that, that this program is offered for residents who don't have the time or the interest to do something else with the program. And they know that when they put their reusable materials in these bags, that they're going to go on to have a second life. They're going to go on to have a second life either in the U.S. for reuse, in other parts of the world for reuse, or for those materials that, like that single sock, that they'll have a new life in a new function.
Okay. Well, I know our recycling bin is picked up and is taken to a material recovery facility where everything is separated into different materials. Where are the bags that you pick up taken for sorting?
Sure. So, our first step in the processing and handling of this material happens with our resale partners. So we work with regional and national resale shops and thrift store chains that will do the initial sorting of the material to determine what is resaleable and reusable in the domestic marketplace. So, simple recycling focuses on the collection program and making it as simple and convenient for residents to have an avenue to dispose of this material and have it find a new life. We, on the back end, work with regional and thrift store chains to process and handle that material because that's their area of expertise on what can be reused in the U.S. marketplace, in the local marketplace, and then determining what can go to other parts of the world.
Okay. So, and one thing that I think many residents don't understand about recycling overall is that it is a business. It's an important part of our economy. And even whether it's trash or recycling, nothing is free. It's supposed to be a profitable business. But I'm wondering, in that regard, are any of the materials actually, and whether this is a nonprofit or not, are they actually donated to people who are in need of clothes?
Sure. So one of the common questions is this a charity? And we're not. We're a recycling hauler, just like Waste Management or Republic Services, that's focused on offering a long-term sustainable solution to this massive problem. So organizations that do collect clothing donations have done so for a very long time, and they've been able to capture that 15% of the total amount of clothing waste that's produced in this country. We're looking to change the script to focus on convenience, to offer residents a program that's as simple as throwing it in the trash so that we capture that 85% of material.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, what percentage do you think ends up being sent overseas?
Sure. So it varies based upon just the quality and condition of the material that's collected. Obviously, the higher the quality of the clothing and shoes and reusable home goods, the more we're able to keep local and support the local economy and provide local jobs. In reality, probably about 60 to 70% of the total material that's collected goes to international markets or for repurposing or reuse.
Okay. On the surface, it does seem confusing that why are certain materials, certain clothing resellable in the not resellable in the United States, but they are resellable overseas.
Sure,
right?
sure.
This is obviously people that need clothes and want to buy clothes at different types of clothes.
Yeah, so just, the domestic resale, the thrift store industry is not my particular area of expertise. However, my understanding is that the American consumer at all levels is more particular in terms of quality and condition than, say, in some other parts of the world that have a little bit more a higher tolerance or have a more of a repair and mend mentality when it comes to materials. A lot of times in the domestic market, if a zipper is broken or a button is missing, they'll just pass over it to go to buy a different pair of pants, or a different shirt that isn't missing a button. Mm-hmm. Whereas in other parts of the world, they have a mending mentality mm-hmm. where they'd rather buy that shirt for a little bit less money and take it home and put a new button on it. Right.
It's interesting that you said that because I actually brought from my pile a pair of jeans that the zipper is broken. So mm-hmm. it ended up in our donation, even though it's a really nice pair of jeans. Yep. We don't have that mentality to get it fixed. We don't have the ability ourselves or right. know where to easily take it. So those things get donated. So yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. That makes a lot. That helps me understand it. What about the 3 R's that we talk about: reduce, reuse, recycling? Mm-hmm. Does your company support reduce in any way?
Sure, absolutely. So, obviously we fall into the reuse segment of the reduce, reuse, recycling is our primary focus, right? Taking something that doesn't need to be altered in any way and have it be reused by somebody else. So that's our primary focus. In terms of reduction, there's trends in American fashion to have more than just seasonal changes now. The clothing is being produced more rapidly, more fashion changes, lower quality garments that tend to fall apart after a shorter period of time. So, my personal, and not even representative of the company, but my personal mindset is to buy a nice quality garment that will have a longer life, and therefore reducing the impact of having fast fashion.
Right, both the economy and the environment. I think that's a great message to share with our listeners today. Mm-hmm. So can you tell me anything about the technology that's used in the textile recycling? Is there anything new up and coming, or is it?
Yeah, so the clothing collection, processing, and handling industry is a very human labor-intensive process. This industry creates jobs both locally and internationally for the sorting, grading, and processing. Because unlike a traditional commodity where a plastic bottle gets broken down into small pieces of plastic and then aggregated, and that can be all done by machines, the grading of a garment, for a machine to know that this is a very nice pair of jeans, but just has a broken zipper, it's impossible for a machine at this point to understand that. So the process of finding highest and best use is a very human-centric process. There are organizations that are focusing on that category of material that is not reusable. Most of it right now is being repurposed. So you'll see denim is sometimes used for insulation in houses or sound deadening material in cars. So the biggest problem that we face is the fact that the majority of this material isn't getting to that point to find that repurpose or that recycling, because the majority of it's going in the landfill.
Right, which is really sad.
Right.
I mean, I think about, this is a sweatshirt that one of my kids got at a party, and it has a kid's name on it and a date. It's a really nice, warm sweatshirt, but my son doesn't wear these kind of sweatshirts, so it needs to go somewhere else. It has someone's name on it, so it's not that marketable. You know, people don't want to buy a sweatshirt like that. It ends up in the landfill. It takes up a lot of space in the landfill, and it's going to stay there forever.
Right.
Especially if it's made from polyester, which is oil and is never going to break down. So, so we definitely need to do everything we can to keep things out of the landfill. And I love how your company is kind of looking at taking trash and turning it into treasure, taking something that would end up wasted, lying in a landfill for forever, basically, and making it something that can be reused or recycled the best way it can be.
Absolutely. And you know, our company, everything we do is focused on convenience for both the municipal representatives that we partner with at the city level, and then also for the residents that will utilize and adopt the program, because we believe that that is where the biggest gap in the industry is today, and the leading factor for the majority of this material to end up in the landfill. So we believe that if we focus on the residents by offering them a program that is so simple and so easy to use and so convenient. If you forgot to put your bag out this week, we'll be there next week.
Yeah,
so that when you're ready to clean out your closet or your garage or your basement or your attic, we'll be there on that next recycling collection day.
Yeah, don't put it in the trash. And you can't put it in your regular recycling bin, which people sometimes make that mistake. So now they have a really good option.
Yep.
How does it benefit the city of Farmington Hills and residents like me? Besides the convenience, is there any financial cost or benefit?
So this program is completely free to the residents of Farmington Hills and to the city of Farmington Hills. The other economic story to this, which is sort of secondary, the primary focus is on the vast environmental impact and also the convenient service for the residents. But the economic impact is that every ton of material that we're able to divert from the waste stream extends the life of the landfill and also saves the taxpayers money, because they're having to pay to put every ton of material into the landfill. The landfill isn't free.
Yeah.
Landfill charges for every pound of material that goes into the landfill. So the more material that we can offer recycling programs for to reduce the amount of material that goes into the landfill saves the city money. In addition to that, Simple Recycling has a rebate program for the city that compensates the city at $20 a ton for everything that's collected, and is actually a revenue generating program for the city.
Great.
And one of the things that we're proud of is that Simple Recycling is the highest impact environmental initiative that a city can implement for no cost and with no operational requirements, because we do all of the work. There are no other recycling programs out there that can offer a convenient service that diverts as much material from the waste stream at no charge.
Okay, and what about the trucks? Are you using your own trucks, or?
Yeah, so we handle all of the operations and logistics ourselves. We operate our own fleet of trucks. Most of them are Ford Transit vans or 16-foot box trucks. They're all clearly labeled with Simple Recycling's information. Residents will see them throughout the community.
Okay, so they follow the other trucks and they collect the materials.
So they don't follow the same time as trash and recycling trucks, obviously there's significantly more volume of traditional trash and recycling.
Okay.
They follow the same route schedule, meaning if your recycling collection schedule is every Thursday, you set your green bags out on that same day. Just because the recycling truck typically comes in the afternoon, simple recycling might be there in the morning.
Mm-hmm. So I just want to kind of remind people that are listening to this show that with recycling, we're talking about a very common symbol that we see, the 3 chasing arrows. And people often think that's reduce, reuse, recycle, but it's actually not. And it involves the 3 steps of recycling, which is collection, which you guys are doing, repurposing it or recycling it is the second arrow, and then purchasing it is the final to complete the loop. So that's the chasing arrows. So in that regard, when you offer this, you're giving residents the opportunity to be part of the whole loop, especially if they then look at don't forget about the purchasing part on the end, that this has to have a viable market
Absolutely.
for our economy. So just one last question. Do you have any issues with contamination, like people putting things in the bags that shouldn't be in there? And is there any strange item that has appeared?
So honestly, we have very little problems in terms of contamination or residents putting things in the bags that don't belong there. I think that's because on our bags it specifically says what kinds of materials, clothing, shoes, towels, coats, jackets, toys, kitchenware. It all says it directly on the bag, and then all of the program material that we send out. Occasionally folks will put things like newspapers or magazines in there with the mindset of reuse. But those types of items should go in your traditional recycling bin because there is not much of a resale market for newspapers.
Right.
But occasionally we will see some things in there that don't belong, but it's very, very rare actually.
What about books?
So books are something that have a great purpose in reuse. If you can pass a book on to somebody else, do it.
Okay.
Right? It's much better than it ending up, getting shredded.
Yep.
So we certainly accept books and appreciate it.
And what if it doesn't fit in your bag, or what if you don't happen to have a bag? What can you do?
So for items that don't fit in the bag, we collect any sort of reusable type item that's less than 50 pounds. We have one driver in a truck, so we're not able to collect large appliances or large pieces of furniture. But let's say, for example, it's a small rolling desk chair or a vacuum cleaner. Our drivers are driving up and down these streets looking for these green bags and these green tags.
Right.
During the distribution of bags, all of the residents received a fluorescent tag that has the same program information as the bag, and residents can simply take this sticker and put it on that vacuum cleaner, or they can tape this green bag. Our drivers just need to be able to see it as they're driving down the street. So if it's an item that is eligible for our program, like a vacuum cleaner, it's less than 50 pounds, it does have a reuse purpose, just try and put the bag over the top of it, tape it, just try and make it as easy for our drivers to see.
Okay.
Additionally, if you need additional bags, or if a resident is doing a big clean out, or they're moving and they have more things than they can fit in 2 bags, they can call us or email us and schedule a special pickup, and we'll make sure that we have a truck large enough to accommodate that volume.
All right. Well, as I mentioned before we started this discussion, I have a special interest in recycling, so I'll end with one last question. What happens to all these plastic bags that you collect?
So these plastic bags, from the time of distribution, they all contain recycled content of plastic material. We're required to use plastic bags because everything needs to be clean and dry. So they all have drawstrings on them so that when the resident places their bag out at their curb, even if it's raining or if it's snowing, the clothing will stay clean and dry, because that's the only way it can be reused. In terms of the bags, when we collect this material and we sell it across these various market channels that we discussed, it stays in those bags so that it stays clean and dry. At that point, it no longer is our material. Certainly, all of our partners that have access to markets for recycling of plastic film will recycle the bags.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing so much valuable information with us today and for helping bring this to our city. It was really nice to talk to you today.
My pleasure. And one last thing I'd just like to mention, if residents would like additional bags or they have any questions about our program, they can call, email, or visit our website. It's www.simplerecycling.com. Our email address is info@simplerecycling.com. And we do have an 800 number. That's 866-835-5068. So we look forward to continuing to provide this service to the residents of Farmington Hills and really appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. Thank you for watching our show.